What role only paid Brad Pitt $6,000? These superstars made some of the most iconic films of the 90s for chump change. It's every actor's dream to win an Oscar, and Jeff Daniels seemed like he was on his way there in the early 90s with several critically acclaimed dramatic roles already under his belt. But when auditions for Dumb and Dumber came around in 1994, Daniels decided it was his time to shine.
You know what? I'm bored with the career. I want to change it up.
Daniels' agents and the studio weren't huge on the idea, but co-star Jim Carrey wanted him to be the Harry to his Lloyd, so they had to listen. Trying to make him an offer he could easily refuse, the studio offered Daniels a mere $50,000 for the co-starring role, but the actor ended up taking the cash. When asked about his decision by People magazine, he said, "Dumb and Dumber was my attempt to establish range." In 2014, when the sequel was being released, the writers revealed that Carrey was paid $7 million for the first movie, compared to Daniels' relatively lousy $50,000. Co-director Peter Farrelly told The Hollywood Reporter the whole budget was $16 million and Jim got $7 million, which was the most ever for any comedic actor.
We're supposed to talk about all expenditures, Lloyd. We are on a very tight budget. This didn't come out of our travel fund.
Hopefully, the pair's salaries were more equal the second time around. When Bill Murray first read the script for 1998's Rushmore, he didn't feel the need to meet with the writer-director, a rookie filmmaker by the name of Wes Anderson. Murray told Collider, "There's nothing to talk about. It's all right there. It was so precise what he wanted, that I knew he knew exactly what he wanted to do, and I didn't have any doubt that he was going to be able to do it." One important thing that apparently wasn't talked about was his salary. Murray was paid only $9,000 for his time and effort, but he didn't care. In fact, Murray enjoyed the script so much that when the studio refused to budget for a helicopter scene, he wrote a $25,000 check to cover it, although the scene was never shot and the check was never cashed. Luckily, Murray did receive some of Rushmore's profits from the box office when it was released, and ever since, Murray has been a mainstay of Anderson's movies. Whenever the now-famed director asks Murray to star in one of his new films,
it's an automatic yes. He's made making movies his life, and making movies is a joy.
Whether it's as the depressed Raleigh St. Clair or the curmudgeonly Steve Zissou, Murray relishes his opportunities to work with Anderson. He told Interview magazine, "I've liked most of the characters I've played, but writing-wise, they weren't all finished. I think Rushmore is the first movie I've done in a while that's completely whole." Pixar sure has a friend in Tom Hanks. In the 1990s, the beloved actor was invited to the Pixar studio to check out a brand new kind of animation that was being developed. Hanks recalled his experience to the New York Times, saying, "I watched this test probably 6 times in a row and just thought, how did they do that? Not how did they make the image, but how did they make it spark to life so seamlessly?" Hanks was immediately on board and signed on to star in what would become Pixar's beloved 1995 feature debut, Toy Story. According to the Los Angeles Times, however, Hanks was offered a typical scale salary amounting to less than $50,000 for the role, and that was after he had already won 2 Oscars and brought in $40 million from his shrewd back-end deal on Forrest Gump. The good news? Hanks raked in around $5 million up front when it came to the sequel 4 years later. With more sequels and billions of dollars in box office revenue, toy sales, video games, and theme park attractions, all of which came with new rounds at the negotiating table, we'd have to say it was a great deal for Hanks to make. He reflected to the New York Times, "My daughter pointed out to me that Woody will be part of that for the rest of time, the same way Mickey is. And in no small way, I am Woody." One of the biggest comedies to come from the 90s was the movie American Pie, and even actor Seann William Scott's salary was something to laugh at. Steve Stifler was his first big movie role, and he was paid only $8,000 for it. That wasn't a problem though, as Scott told Ellen DeGeneres, "I would have paid them to be in the movie." Scott elaborated, saying he had to work odd jobs to get by in between the time of American Pie's production and its premiere. He cleaned toilets at a law firm and sold churros at the local zoo.
I don't know, man. That sounds like a lot of work.
Not exactly. The churro gig only lasted hours. A serendipitous encounter with a caged gorilla inspired him to quit immediately, and he booked Final Destination the next day. When American Pie hit theaters in 1999, Scott was an instant star, going from one big comedy to the next, including Dude, Where's My Car, Old School, and The Dukes of Hazzard. Of course, American Pie became a hit franchise, and by the time the 4th installment landed in 2012, Scott had gone from making $8,000 to making a more reasonable $5 million. Director Ridley Scott got Brad Pitt for a steal back in 1991. Since Pitt's estimated net worth is in the hundreds of millions nowadays, it's quite shocking that he reportedly made only $6,000 for his role in Thelma and Louise. Pitt explained at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, "I had nothing to show for myself except for my extra work, and they took a chance on me." The crew had already begun filming and had gone through actor after actor before they found Pitt.
I think they were desperate, to tell you the truth. They were already shooting because a week later I was on set and working.
No one expected Thelma and Louise to get much buzz, least of all its cast. But the movie defied the odds and received 6 Oscar nominations. It was Pitt's iconic 7-minute appearance that propelled him to a life of stardom on the big screen ever since. Thelma and Louise made over $45 million at the box office worldwide, which would probably about cover one of Pitt's paychecks nowadays. When Aladdin came along, Robin Williams knew he needed to do it for his kids, regardless of the eventual paycheck. While the comedian was used to making around $8 million per movie, he reportedly agreed to accept just $75,000 for his role as Genie, according to the Los Angeles Times. Marcia Garces, Williams' wife at the time, wasn't concerned though. She told New York Magazine, "Money's never been the reason for me to recommend anything. Unless the entire country collapses, we have as much as we'll ever need. I'm more interested in looking at what Robin hasn't done and seeing what's next. I'm prejudiced, but I've never seen anyone with his range." Genie was actually supposed to be a side character in the movie, but after Williams recorded more than 30 hours of voiceover gold for Disney, they decided to make him a major part of the story. Williams told New York Magazine, "I felt wonderful. That's why I did it. And it was such a pleasure when it came out, and people said I loved it as much as my kid did."
Oh, Al, I'm getting kind of fond of you, kid. Not that I want to pick out curtains or anything.
However, part of Williams' deal was that his voice wouldn't be used to sell Aladdin merchandise. When Disney did exactly that, Williams protested, prompting the studio to send him a Picasso painting worth over $1 million. When the movie Boys Don't Cry hit theaters in 1999, it gave Hilary Swank her first Oscar for Best Actress in a Leading Role, and a paycheck of only $3,000. However, the young and emerging actor didn't seem to mind. She told IndieWire, "I thought, wow, this is my opportunity to break into film. Famous people weren't taking the risk on independent film, and they weren't getting paid, so there was no interest for them." The script seemed to speak to Swank, too. Boys Don't Cry follows the true and tragic story of Brandon Teena, a young transgender man that the then 24-year-old actor portrayed. Following the release of the film, Swank spent 10 years as a spokesperson for one of America's biggest organizations that supports LGBTQ youth. Before the movie was released, Swank was pretty much unknown in the entertainment industry. Not only did Boys Don't Cry give her a break into the business, but being in such a groundbreaking film also gave her a great sense of purpose. The paycheck, though, not so much. In her Oscar acceptance speech, she joked, "Everyone put their heart and soul into this movie, and God knows no one got paid." As the 1970s came to a close, John Travolta had already played a teen heartthrob in Grease and scored an Oscar nomination for his role in Saturday Night Fever. But then his career faltered, and by the 1990s, he wasn't such a hot Hollywood commodity. It wasn't until Quentin Tarantino cast him in 1994's Pulp Fiction that Travolta's Tinseltown track would be revived. Travolta explained to Deadline, "Quentin fought for me to be in Pulp Fiction. This guy put his reputation, his career on the line because he had that much confidence." With Tarantino's seal of approval, Travolta threw himself into the role of introspective hitman Vincent Vega for a relatively measly $150,000. It's hardly anything compared to his estimated $250 million net worth now, but as his agent Jonathan Crane explained to Variety, "The last factor in making decisions for us is price. He'll only do a movie because it's a good movie." Travolta's judgment for what makes a good movie hasn't always been accurate, but he definitely got it right when it came to Tarantino's ultra-violent script. Travolta's acting in Pulp Fiction caught the attention of the Academy and earned him his second Oscar nomination, proving everyone in Hollywood wrong about his stagnant career and getting him calls for even more big roles.
Now, if you excuse me, I'm gonna go home and have a heart attack.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers had the highest ratings for a kids' show when it first aired in 1993, but the Rangers themselves wouldn't have known it from their paychecks. The actors under the colorful helmets have said that they barely shared in the billions of dollars that came from the video games, toys, comic books, and more that were sold, all of which they helped popularize. Many of them even worked regular jobs before having to show up 6 days a week for filming. Red Ranger Austin St. John divulged to HuffPost, "I could have worked the window at McDonald's and probably made the same money as the first season. It was disappointing. It was frustrating. It made a lot of us angry." Co-creator Shucky Levy told The Hollywood Reporter that he would simply tell the young actors, "When you start something and you haven't done much as an actor yet, and you get an opportunity to be on such a hit, I think one should look at the positive side rather than what he's not getting enough of." However, there was no bright side to starving in stardom. After 2 years, when the actors were unable to unionize or change their pay, 3 of the original 6 stars left the show. Families across America made Home Improvement one of the most watched television shows of the 90s. But those fans would probably be surprised to know that Tim Allen's television family was almost torn apart, as the comedian-turned-sitcom star was earning anywhere from $200,000 to $1.25 million per episode. The 3 young actors who played his kids, Taryn Noah Smith, Zachary Ty Bryan, and Jonathan Taylor Thomas, were not happy, making just $8,000 each. In 1993, the 3 demanded a raise to $25,000 for every episode, and even refused to show up on set until it happened. However, producers knew there were aspiring young actors out there that would do it for less, so they simply sent out a new casting call. Realizing they were replaceable, it is Hollywood after all, the kids quickly came back to continue their roles. Taryn Noah Smith admitted to Lawrence Journal World, "I'm not into being a rich person. I see money as sort of like blood flowing through veins. As much as I want to make a lot of money, I don't want to hold on to it. I want it to flow out into projects." However, Smith's projects are no longer of the Hollywood variety. Funnily enough, after wrapping the show, Smith has had several jobs, including working on houses.
It is very strange. I'm now doing tool time for real.
Considering the production value of the Blair Witch Project, it's no surprise that the cast made next to nothing for their eerie appearances. The film's 3 up-and-coming actors were paid only $1,000 a day each for 8 days and were told to go into the woods with a camera and improvise scary scenarios. As sketchy as it first seemed, aspiring actor Heather Donahue was stoked for the opportunity, beating out 2,000 others for the leading role. She told Paper, "My thought was, well, when else am I going to get the chance to improvise an entire feature?" With an initial budget of just $60,000, the Blair Witch Project made over $248 million when it hit theaters in 1999. Most of the film's success was attributed to its viral marketing campaign, which centered around the claim that Donahue and her co-stars died in both the movie and in real life. Donahue's IMDb page even read "deceased," which unfortunately proved to be an accurate omen for her and her co-stars' careers. Donahue told Vice, "It was me and my '84 Toyota Celica breaking down in LA underneath a billboard with my own face on it."